You do what you can in that time, you create what you can in that time, you say what you want to say in that time, and that's the end of it. I want to start the episode off by asking you a question, a serious question. Welcome to the Mindset Gym podcast, where we exercise your way of thinking to help unlock your hidden potential. I'm your host, Emily Irwin, a registered nurse and holistic nutritionist with a passion for all things health, fitness, and personal development. All right, let's get into it. Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome back to the Mindset Gym podcast. I hope you're having an awesome start to your week. I'm recording in a different room today, literally for no other reason than the fact that it's a beautiful day outside and this room has more windows, so it just gets more light. Looks a little nicer in here. And it's funny because I found myself feeling worried about recording this in a different room because it felt like I was breaking some sort of rule about how these episodes are supposed to be structured. But it's my show. I can actually do that if I want. There's no rules here, so I don't know why I'm worrying for nothing. Anyways, let that be your little takeaway for today. If you're worrying about something silly that you actually don't need to worry about, maybe we can both learn a little bit about letting that go. Anyways, I want to start the episode off by asking you a question, a serious question. What do you think of yourself? Really? Really, 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 what do you think of yourself? Not what do you think of the way that you come off to other people? Not what do you think about what you think other people think about you? Truly, truly, truly down deep in your core, how do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about the way that you show up day to day? How do you feel about the way that you talk to people? How do you feel about the ways that you express yourself? How do you feel about the way that you've followed through or haven't followed through on things that you've wanted to do in this life? How do you feel about the life you've created and whether or not it's true to what you want to do? How do you feel about your progress towards any goals you have? Or if there's no progress towards them, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about who you are compared to who you were maybe a decade ago? Do you feel like there's been any change? If there has, how do you feel? If not, how do you feel about that? I think a lot of times we don't really take the time to stop and sit and ask ourselves these questions and really, really consider the answer. There's a lot of things that drive our actions in this life. Other people's expectations, how we want to come across to other people, societal pressure, having to pay the bills, having to get by. There's so many other things that dictate what we do on a day-to-day basis. And it can be very easy to get caught up in that. It can be very easy to let those things run how you operate and dictate how all of your days look. But at the end of the day, none of those things are actually as important as how you feel about yourself and the life you're creating. Because it's not somebody else's life. It's yours. And I've talked in a previous episode about how life is just incredibly short, and this is kind of our chance to make it what we want to make it. And once that chance is over, it's over. You do what you can in that time, you create what you can in that time, you say what you want to say in that time, and that's the end of it. So how do you feel about the way you're approaching those things right now? And I know I'm forcing a lot of self-reflection on you. This is a lot of thinking I'm making you do for the start of the week, but I think these are important questions. And if you need to pause the episode and take a minute to just ponder your responses to the questions I asked you at the start of the episode, I would encourage you to do that. Give yourself a couple minutes to just sit with those questions and see what you come up with. See how you feel. Does it scare you to ask yourself those questions? Do you not really want to answer them because you don't like the answer? There are so many possibilities in this life, and you are capable of doing such extraordinary things. And those dreams that you have and those goals that you have, they're not too big and they're not too impossible. If it's something you want badly enough, you can make it happen. You can make it work. But you have to be willing to step into it and actually take the steps towards it and embrace the discomfort that comes with that process. And be willing to set aside some of these other things like opinions from other people and where you think you should be, what you think you should be doing, and really hone in on what you need to be doing in order to create a life that feels true to you and a life that makes you feel proud with the actions that you're taking. And people may not always agree with you, right? You may not always have a plan that everybody understands or agrees with. And depending what it is you're trying to do, depending what kind of life you're trying to create, you are probably going to get a lot of comments and questions and criticism from other people. There's going to be a lot of people that have something to say about it, but at the end of the day, does their opinion matter more than yours? I want you to imagine decades from now when you are reflecting on the person that you currently are and the actions that you took back then. Would you be proud of the fact that you let someone else's opinion stop you? Or would you be proud of the fact that you stayed the course and did what was meaningful to you despite the criticism, despite it being kind of hard? I know it kind of seems like there is one a lot of the time, but there actually is no rule book to life. There's certain things that you've got to do. You've got to be able to pay for a roof over your head and pay for food. But beyond the things that keep you alive, there's actually no rule book. There is no set of guidelines that actually says you have to do all of these things. I know it feels that way a lot of the times. I know there is a lot of narratives and expectations that make it feel like you do have to go through life kind of checking off this to-do list, and if you don't do everything on that list, you've done something wrong or your life lacks some sort of meaning compared to the people who have. But that's actually not true. Meaning comes from what you decide it comes from. You get to decide what's meaningful to you. You get to decide what's important to you. And if the typical things that are on that checklist that people do in order to find meaning don't feel meaningful or don't feel genuine to you, you don't have to do them. There's no rules. There's no rules. And I know in some context I'm speaking from a place of privilege because there are people where they don't have the freedom to make decisions like that. And in a way, there are kind of rules. There are people that you have to listen to. There are expectations that you have to meet. And so I am coming from a place of privilege in saying that there are no rules, that I have the freedom to make these decisions. But if you're someone who's listening who also has that privilege and has that freedom to actually make the decisions you want to make, because there really is no rule book for you, I want you to sit in that for a minute, and I just want you to reflect on how expansive that is and how much opportunity that gives you. And think about whether or not you're using that. Are you actually taking advantage of that? Or are you still subscribing to this fictional rule book that you think is supposed to govern your life? The meaning of your life does not come from you checking off a to-do list. Someone else does not get to determine where the meaning in your life comes from. You do. You get to pick. And I'm not saying that that choice is always going to be easy. That you picking what you want to do and picking what feels right to you and structuring a life that is truly meaningful, that's not an easy thing to do. I'm saying it's one of those things that is simple but not easy. It's simple to explain but not easy to put into practice. You actually taking those steps is challenging. It's going to require you to go against the norm sometimes. It's going to require you to do scary things. It's going to require you to step into unfamiliar territory and take risks on yourself. And it's going to force you to grow. And it's going to force you to reconsider a lot of things. There is a lot of difficulty that comes with trying to carve your own path in any way, shape, or form, whatever it is. Whether you're trying to create a different family dynamic, whether you are trying to switch jobs later in life, whether you're trying to move to a new country, whether you're trying to quit your job to pursue a hobby that you feel really passionate about, whatever it is. Even if it's just breaking generational trauma and having to put in the work to try and rewrite the narrative for you and the people around you. All of it's hard. All of it's really difficult and hard, but it ends up being worth the work. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you're reflecting on your answers to the questions that I just asked you at the beginning of this episode and you don't like the answers and you don't like how those questions made you feel, I want you to think about why. I want you to think about what it is that you're not pursuing, or something that you are pursuing that is maybe not right for you. And I want you to think about what the hard steps would be in order to do something different. What is required of you to change directions and go in a path that feels better to you and that you would be more proud of? What does it mean? What steps are going to be involved? And I'm not saying you have to take action today. I'm not saying you have to do anything like that, but just think about it. Just think about what's involved. What would you have to do? If you could close your eyes right now and imagine a life that you love, and like down to the very detail. What time do you wake up in the morning? What's the weather like outside? Where do you live? Is there anyone in bed next to you? Is there pets in the home? Is there children in the home? What kind of house do you have? What kind of decor is in it? Is there any pictures on the wall? What kind of clothes do you put on? What kind of job are you going to, if at all? Imagine it down to the very detail. Imagine it down to the nitty-gritty. What do you want it to look like? And compare it to what your life is now. Maybe there's some similarities, maybe there's some differences, maybe you're starting to see a little bit of a roadmap on the things that you can work on. And that can be where you start to formulate your plan of where you want to go. Maybe you don't want to change anything, but maybe you do. Being able to kind of bring it right down to the nitty-gritty and look at it like that will allow you to put together a plan that also addresses the nitty-gritty details of it. So you can get down to the really small level and start with taking steps that are more approachable. I'm going to say this a lot during this show. There's been so many topics where I've said this, and I think if you hear me repeat something very often throughout the course of this entire show, it's because it's important and it's because it's so widely applicable, and it's really something that I want you guys to remember, and that is the fact that you need to start small with anything. With anything. I've said it before. Making change in your life, making change to anything, your physical health, your mental health, anything. It doesn't require big, grand gestures. It never does. We tend to overcomplicate things a lot, and they actually are not that complicated. It is a series of small steps taken repeatedly over and over again over a long period of time that will create the change you're looking for. And so bring it down to the nitty-gritty. Figure out what those small changes are. What are the small steps that you could take in order to start moving in that direction? Even if you don't do them today, just the fact that you took the time to really think about it and think about what the answers to those questions are is already a step in the right direction. This is your playbook. This is your masterpiece. This is your work of art. It's yours. It's yours to create. It's yours to build in the way that you want to. So anyways, thanks for listening to me ramble on about that. I had a thought, figured I'd run with it. I hope you have an amazing day today, and I will catch you later this week. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. If you liked the episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review, or share the show with a friend. Your support helps the show reach even more incredible people just like you. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time at the Mindset Gym.